Okay, so now I'm going to go over how you fill out the questionnaire. This is kind of a longer video. I suspect we'll probably spend about 10 or 12 minutes talking about this. Just show you how to fill out this questionnaire so that we can then generate the documents that you need for your basic estate plan. I'm going to share my screen again. And the place to start is to go back to that email that we sent you, kind of the welcome email. And there's a link in there to app.filevine.com. Click on that. You're going to sign back in with the credentials that you used to set up your account in the first place, from that first email that you received from Filevine. When you do that, you're going to get this screen, and this screen might be a little confusing. If you were working for my firm, we have hundreds of projects in Filevine, and this feed gives us information about the latest things that have happened in all of our projects. Because you only have one project in Filevine, you're only connected to your own project, and you haven't had anything happen, it's just a brand new project, there's nothing on this screen, it's just an empty feed. But this is a very important page when you're handling hundreds of projects. To find your specific project though, you go to search for a project in the upper right. Now it may happen that when you click in that box, it's simply going to pop up the one project to which you're connected. And if that happens, you just click on it. If nothing happens when you click into that box, just start typing your name and your project will show up. You click on that and that's going to take you to the questionnaire form. Now this is where you put in all the information that we need in order to produce this No-Frills Basic Estate Plan package for you. So right at the top, the big questions, because this is going to determine what template we use for generating these documents. We need to know whether or not you're married, and we need to know whether or not you have any children under the age of 18. So select those answers here and provide your county of residence. Then we have a disclaimer, and I'd like you all to read this, just because I think we are a very good personal injury firm, and hopefully none of you will ever need us for that in that capacity. But if you ever do, hope you will reach out to us. But we're not an estate planning firm. We can write a basic will, we can create these documents, but what we're trying to do here is make this broadly available to a lot of people who might feel unsettled by what's going on with the COVID-19 outbreak, and allow them to get some documents in place that they wish they had gotten done before this all happened. But we're not an estate planning firm, and we want to make sure you understand these are very generic, standard. I said in an earlier video that I would typically take it as an insult if somebody said my work were cookie cutter, but this is very much cookie cutter basic estate plan. So I want to make sure you understand what we're doing and what we're not doing, and that you have to decide for yourself if these documents meet your needs. We're not in a position to give you advice as to what should be in them. We're not advising you about the tax implications of any of these documents. So you need to make that decision. When you fill out this questionnaire, or actually when you first signed up to fill out this questionnaire, we attached your project to an estate planning attorney. We copied them on the email that we sent to you. Saw that as a CC line on the email that we sent to you. We gave you their name and email address. That was in the email that was sent to you above. If you have any questions, if you feel like you need to sit down with somebody with more expertise in this, or with more capacity to advise you on what needs to be in your estate plan, reach out to that attorney and get a customized estate plan. You have to decide for yourself if you want to go forward with this plan. If you do, great. But if you feel like you might need something more, if you have some kind of special needs or special circumstances that need to be addressed in your estate plan, go ahead and reach out to that estate planning attorney and get something more robust. But for the time being, if you want to go ahead with this package, great. Just click that you accept the disclaimer, sign here, and we're ready to go. So the first section is the last will and testament section. That's the first of the 3 documents that this estate plan will consist of. Now there are lines here for all of your information. If you had selected up top that you were married, there would be 2 sets of lines for you and line for your spouse. Now the only distinction between the primary, for lack of a better word, and the spouse in this section is the template sets the first spouse as being the one who survives if somehow the 2 spouses die in a common accident, like in a car crash, husband and wife driving along and get in a car crash and they're both killed, the wills decide that the first spouse in this system is going to be deemed to have survived the other, which would mean that sometimes there's a distinction to be made depending on which spouse inherits from the other spouse first, which will needs to be applied first and which will needs to be applied second. So if you're filling this out with your spouse, you just need to decide which of you is to be deemed the person who survived if the two of you perish in a common accident, or if you die under circumstances where it's difficult to tell who survived the other. The wills just say spouse number one survived spouse number two. Name, date of birth, your burial preference, and your religious tradition. And when we say burial preference, your choices are buried or cremated. If you need something different, again, a more customized document might be more suitable for you. Religious tradition, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, if you're atheist, secular, or some other religion, just identify it here so that it can be put into your will. If you have any specific gifts or bequests, any property that you want to leave to a specific person or an institution or to a specific group of people, identify the property here and identify the people to whom it should go. One line per gift. Beyond that, anything else is going to go to your contingent beneficiary. Now, you can identify a contingent beneficiary on this questionnaire. If you are filling this out as a married couple, each spouse is going to be the default contingent beneficiary, and the person you identify here is only going to inherit the residue of your estate if the spouse is not around to do so. So if you fill this out with your wife or your husband and you have children, for example, this is how I would fill it out. The will by default is going to leave everything to my wife other than what I've given away specifically in this box. And then I'll specify that if my wife doesn't survive me, then I want the estate to be given to my children equally. If you're filling this out as an individual who's not married, then you simply name your contingent beneficiary. Next section is your executor, and the executor is the person who is responsible for filling out or for fulfilling your wishes, for putting into effect the wishes expressed in your will. This can be a responsible job. A lot of people will make their spouses their executor, and that's not always the best decision. It can be a difficult job. It can be a stressful job, depending on what kind of family issues have to be managed. It can just be a difficult job that requires patience and familiarity with accounting. So it may or may not be something that you want to put your spouse in. The will does not default to putting the spouse in the executor role. You need to identify who it is you want to be in that role. And it can be your spouse or it could be somebody else. We need you to list your children. And I'll just say, if you have other children who are not listed in here, if you have children after creating this will, you should redo your will. And then guardian. If you set up top that you have children under the age of 18, it's going to give you a place to identify who should be the guardian of your children if you pass away and you're the second spouse, for example, to pass away, and the children have no natural guardian anymore. You can put in the guardian's name, one person or maybe a couple, and their address. And that's it for the last will and testament. You'll see what we produce in a separate video, but you'll see what that document looks like, but that's what we can customize